Well, hello and welcome, and let's have a look at the chat who is with us. We have Melissa H, and she posed, "Hi everyone, someone needs to create a new statue to put on Wall Street. A huge baby with empty hands, crying and reaching towards several people outfitted with gaming gear surrounded by stacks of cash." You're absolutely right, and of course, we will address this topic exactly. Well, um, and we will talk about in how far my romantic imagination that what we saw 10 years ago with Occupy Wall Street grew up right now, and maybe it is a new kind of Occupy Wall Street. We will talk about it. And who else is here? We have John Crowfeather. Hi. And we have Human Love Solidarity, Tracy Navarro. Well, thank you all for watching, and welcome to the show. Well, as I said, we will talk about GameStop and what was happening around it. And another topic for today would be the question of a general strike, Medicare for all, and in how far this is connected. Of course, another topic would be if there are possible talks, if talks are possible between the left and right, and in how far the left itself is split over this question. And Amos talks also about the Democrats and their meaningful legislation. We will hope they come up. All right, Amos, let's talk about GameStop.
There we go.
Um, Well, we see the statue of the little girl there, and well, to be honest, when I heard was going on, because the news was skyrocketing. It was discussed everywhere. It swept to Germany. It also will influence our German business. You know that we also will check what's going on, and incredible developments. And in my romantic thoughts, my first reaction was when I remembered back 10 years ago what happened around Occupy Wall Street, that wow, the generation who once were playing outside, they grew up and now they're hitting the elites at Wall Street from the inside. What were your first thoughts, Amos? What do you say?
By the way, that statue that's iconic. It's a counterpart to another statue in the same location, which is the
Yes,
Meryl Street. The what is it called?
I don't know the
The
name, but I
Meryl
know what you're
something.
referring to.
There's a statue of a bull representing
Yes,
Wall Street and the institutionalized investors, and this girl is just standing right across from it. So it has
yes.
a symbolism as well.
Yes, and I don't know if you have noticed, I changed the GameStop logo a little bit. The original logo is power to the players, and I think in this case, it is more fitting to say power to the people, because what is happening around GameStop is incredible. And I think we should start by explaining it. Do you want to start, or shall we start with Mr.
I think
Hofreiter?
Hofstadter he makes an
Oh,
excellent
all
point
right.
in his video in terms of explaining it, and I think
Yes.
that will kind of bring us on here. So let's roll.
Enjoy it. It's great.
So what the hell is going on with GameStop? Everyone has a take on the war between Reddit investors and hedge funds. But even though this is going to cost me money to tell you, there's something awful behind the scenes you need to know. First, the backstory. A few years ago, some amateur stock market fanboys on Reddit noticed that Wall Street hedge funds were betting against GameStop. The hedge funds were doing what's called shorting a stock, which effectively means that they borrow shares and then immediately sell them. Say a stock is worth $10 now, but drops to $5 in a week. The hedge fund borrows a share and immediately sells it for $10. Then, a week later, they have to give the stock back. But because the price dropped, it only cost them $5 to buy it. They sold it for $10 and bought it for $5. Pretty good deal for them. Now, imagine doing that with millions of shares, and that's why Wall Street folks are fucking wealthy. It's crazy that this is even legal. But speaking of crazy, something wonderful happened. These Redditors saw that hedge funds were betting against GameStop, and they bet against the hedge funds. Hedge funds derive their power by being able to buy millions of shares at once. But thousands of people buying thousands of shares at once has the same effect. A few Redditors turned into a few dozen Redditors, which turned into a few thousand Redditors, which turned into making this more viral than a COVID patient licking a doorknob. So much GameStop stock was bought that it went from $20 on January 12th to almost $500 16 days later. It's basic supply and demand. The more people buy, the higher the value. People are buying for two reasons. One, because it's hilarious to mess with the wealthy short sellers who bet against the stock. And two, because a lot of people are desperate. They heard about the story and they're hoping that this is a way out of their financial troubles in one of the most difficult periods in recent history. But then it took a horrible turn. I know it seems like the hedge funds are the bad guy in this story, but they're actually the level 1 bad guy before you get to the real boss. The way common folk like you and me trade stock is through free apps like Robinhood. Why is the app named Robinhood? Because it wants you to think that it's taking from the rich and giving to the poor. But actually, it's doing the opposite. The app should be named the Sheriff of Nottingham because it's the bad guy. Robinhood so wants you to think that they're helping the little guy that they actually have a page on their website that make it seem like they're putting you on equal footing with Wall Street insiders. They explain that hedge funds focus on more intensive alternative and often riskier opportunities that regular investors can't access. This insinuates that with Robinhood, you can too. Bullshit. Here's how it actually works. There's an old phrase. If you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. Robinhood is virtually free to use because it makes money by taking the information about what people are trading and selling it to those big rich Wall Street folks. But it's not so they can advertise to you like most free apps do. It is so much more insidious. It's so insiders can get ahead of your trades. They make their money by rigging the game against casual traders. Robinhood makes 40% of its income this way, and they make most of the rest of their income from earning interest on the money in your account. Stock trading apps are designed to prevent you from ever catching up to Wall Street. But this week, Wall Street was overwhelmed when an unpredictable amount of users bought the same stock all at once. So what did Robinhood do? They froze their users' ability to buy or sell GameStop. And then, in a move that would impress the Sheriff of Nottingham for how evil it was, they started selling off users' stock without their permission. In other words, they're forcing the price of the stock back down in order to help the people who bet against the stock in the first place. But wait, it gets worse. You know who gets hurt the most by this? The desperate folks. The people who heard about this late, who spent everything they had to try to get one win in life and lost it all because an app that purports to help the little guy forced the market back to a place where it only helps rich people. I'm not a financial advisor, but that's my point. No one should have to be to avoid getting scammed by these con artists. You shouldn't have to watch this video to avoid losing your life savings to today's Jordan Belfort. And if you have been tricked by these monsters, I don't fault you. I was tricked too. Robinhood first gained customers through micro-influencer marketing. People like me were given referral codes and paid in stock for helping spread the word. Great, I thought. Finally a way for the little guy to trade stocks on even footing. I was ignorant to what Robinhood truly was, and I'm sorry I didn't better understand that they were lying. Now that I know how terrible Robinhood is, I am editing them out of every one of my videos, every description, and I am deleting every comment I can find that mentions them. I have deleted their app, and except in the context of a video like this, I will never mention them again. Hey Robinhood, you can go fry or tuck yourself. But what do I know?
Yep. I hope that that went pretty fast, so we'll go a little over it, we'll parse it. You would have to pay very good attention to this whole thing. It has a few parts to it. So take it away, Marcus.
All right, I would like to mention the first part. He meant something very important. If you don't pay for a product, you are the product, and exactly this is what happening. And it is absolutely crazy. It is not crazy. It is unbelievable that the data go directly to Wall Street. You are sending so that their algorithm can predict what you are buying, and so they can arrange everything. They can get the cards. They know what's on your hand, and this is no fair deal. And I'm. I cannot imagine that this could be legal. Of course it is legal because the rules are made by those guys. And this is one thing. Amos, what else did you think?
And that's primarily they call them market makers. These companies that buy this data, it's called a flow, and basically they purchase it. No, it has a functional purpose, so that the companies or hedge funds can also purchase back stock and so forth. So it's but in addition to that, it obviously also supports provides behavioral information, and that's information that you and I are not privy to, and they gain the system by knowing these hidden parameters. So it's rigged in that way. It's so the Citadel company will get into it, but they also are not just entirely an informational company. They're big players on Wall Street, and so is their CEO, which involved himself directly in relation to this short sale as well, and brought up questions about this connection between a company like Robinhood and others. And basically the fact that they closed and that's the second part, right, Marcus? The fact that they froze, Robinhood froze the stocks so that they couldn't be traded. The effect of it is that the hedge funds can still buy the stock back through their means, because they don't need Robinhood for that. But people who are investors, who are retail investors, they call them, like people like you and me, and ordinary people, they need Robinhood. They have to use it in order to sell the stock. So basically, they kind of hindered one side by doing so. And now the question arises: why did they do that? Did they do that as the guy claimed? And we'll run a little video. Do you want to run that video of the Robinhood CEO explaining himself?
We can run it a little bit later.
Okay.
I think to one point what you said. I think it is incredible that we will talk later about the circle. I think this is better. Please go on with the video. Yeah.
With the video, okay. Hold on.
Yeah, it's incredible.
There we go.
We're showing you images right now of Barstool's founder and day trader Dave Portnoy, because he was blasting Robinhood online all day yesterday, and he alleged that perhaps Citadel pressured Robinhood to partially restrict trading in Gamestop and other stocks. And I asked Vlad Tenev to respond to that accusation.
Completely false. Yeah, that's complete misinformation. That did not happen. Hopefully I'm being clear about that. Nobody pressured us. We didn't do this at the direction of a market maker that we route our orders to, or any other financial market participant. No, this was an internal operational and risk management decision that the firm made so that we could protect the firm and protect our customers.
Do you believe, though, that Citadel knew that you were going to have to take these steps and effectively ran in front of it?
I can't really comment on. I don't think so. That seems another one of those misinformation and conspiracy theories. Certainly, we made decisions based on the financial requirements, including SEC net capital obligations and clearinghouse deposits that brokers have to comply with. And Robinhood was not the only broker that restricted buying of these securities. This has been unprecedented activity, concentrated in a few names, and it's really the first time that I've seen where social media and financial services have intersected in this way.
Have you gotten calls from the SEC?
I probably can't comment on specific conversations that we have had or are having, but our team is in constant communication with our regulators and agencies, and working very, very hard to reopen trading to reopen buying in some of these securities as soon as we possibly can.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.
Unfortunately, it was on the CNN NBC who spread a lot of bullshit
Of
in the
course.
past couple of days.
Yeah, they
Uh,
go in all
but
directions, but yeah.
there's one comment coming from Julie Love. Another skeleton, likely epicenter guy. Yes, absolutely. And you gotta know, when he talks about protection of their customers, he was not talking about those guys from the social media part who
Of
invested in
course.
this. His most important customer is another company. We are addressing this a little bit later, who made a business of 40% with them. And I think he was trying to say that he was protecting them.
Yes, obviously that was protecting the hedge funds, not the people, the retail investors. But
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
parse
yeah.
through what this is all about. So he's being accused that this company Citadel, which is the buyer of all this flow info, actually, and because of their connection on Wall Street and their investments in it and the investments of their CEO, pressured him, among others maybe, to freeze these stocks, so these transactions on particular stocks, so that the people could, the stock hedge funds could buy them back at a lower price. Because once this is called it's called squeeze, short squeeze. Once they start raising the prices on that, there's no bottom to it. I mean, the price can go down on a stock till it's zero, but it can keep going up indefinitely. So in order to cap it, they have to start closing their positions. In other words, the hedge funds have to take the loss and buy those stocks back, no matter at what price. And at that point, he froze this so that they wouldn't lose even more on this. The loss, I think, has been like billions so far, 1 billion
There's a
to
number
or
about.
so.
You mean the general loss so far?
General loss from hedge funds on this transaction.
Uh,
I think
the
it was
general
close
loss,
to a
I don't know
billion.
if it includes AMC and stuff.
No,
There is
just
a rumored number like 70 billion already, that
really.
which cost
Wow.
the short sellings, which cost the hedge funds. Um, you know,
And here's the thing. He rejects that. He claims that it was some security issues, that he was doing it for other reasons, and he's also rejecting the notion that they had a liquidity problem, which may have been part of the problem because they took a big loan that same day. So that might be disingenuous as well. I've looked also at his body language, and that's kind of pseudoscientific, but they say that you blink once your blink rate goes up once you release a lie because you feel like you've gotten away with it. And you could see that his blink rate like very clearly goes up in 2 points where he uh, he denies these things. So I don't know, but it looks to me like he's plainly lying there, trying to save the PR disaster that he's in. This
yeah.
this this has caused, and so if indeed Citadel was pushing or not, we will not know. But the fact is, I can't imagine that they didn't even have a phone call saying, "Well, what are you going to do about it?" And then once they knew that Robinhood and others are going to clamp down on it, they knew how to respond in the best way. So at least that we can assume was the case. And the problem here is that this part should be the illegal part. It's kind of akin to inside of trading. It's not inside of trading because they don't know what's going on in the companies, but it's in the same. I put it on the same level because they know how the public is acting. So if you're privy to that, you shouldn't be able to invest and use that knowledge to counter or to make money on the backs of the investors. That is the part that should be legal, not the part that a lot of investors jumped out and started like saying, like they freaked out when this happened, and they started saying how social media should be clamped on and censored because this is damaging to the economy. Some even made the suggestion that it was an international interference, aka Russia, uh,
Of course, yeah,
which
of
which
course.
doesn't make any sense whatsoever unless you're an idiot, because they wouldn't have any
Well,
reason
the thing,
to hit rich people versus middle class people. So it's just ridiculous the way they've gone out of line.
the thing the thing is, what makes it illegal, in my opinion, are the back office deals, which are done secretly. But you cannot talk about the group in the same way, because this is happening openly. There is no secret talks, etc. They're openly discussing it, and well, everybody can look into it. And I think that this is a big difference in the approach to this topic.
And you can't really, yeah, exactly, and that you can't really police this to that level. You don't know what their private discussions are, but it is clear that it's a cabal of these different entities that are kind of helping each other. There's hedge companies that were ridiculing GameStop investors and trying to pitch it as if they're gonna lose all their money and
Yeah,
everything,
they are not.
and
They're not
that
know what they're
backfired
doing.
because people bought even more stocks, and it exposed. Here's the thing: this whole episode exposed the fact that these giant institutions and large investors do not know where the economy is going or where particular companies are going necessarily. They make a decision that is based on either knowledge, or they want to manipulate the market in such a way that would cause these things to happen, and then that's what happens. Now this didn't happen because there were people who were just in the way, and they said, no, we don't accept that truth from you guys. We don't think this is an overpriced stock. We're going to put in our money on that. And that drove the price up, and it exploded the thing. So if you think about it, it's kind of like exposing the decoupling between reality and stock pricing. And
Yes.
if you can artificially do that, means that they've been artificially doing that through institutional means for decades and years. Now that it's the broader public doing it, they're just freaking out because it exposed how naked all this transaction is.
Yes, and look exactly. You're absolutely right. And look at the narrative, and this is why CNNBC is one of those examples. If you look at the early days, now they changed the narrative a little bit, but in the early days when all this happened, they were fuming about, and they were trying to to talk about the people in a very arrogant way, that those people are stupid, that they are not doing that they're not knowing what they're doing, that they would waste all their values they have, and etc etc. Why are they doing this? I ask myself, why are they doing this? Because it is obvious. We will come to this in a moment. It is obvious what is the really fueling power behind this. I think for a good portion of those people, not for all, but I think for many of them, and they don't want to put this narrative in front of it, so they are declaring the people for stupid. But it is hate. The people hate the hedge funds, the establishment, the Wall Street, which caused all those who caused 2008, when it happened, when it all fell down. And now is the generation grew up right now. They experience what was happened to them in the past. And if you read the comments in these groups, they have a certain expression for this. They call it diamond hand. This means they would keep the stocks forever, maybe not forever, but for a long time, for a longer time than those hedge funds have the time to deal, with it, because the timeline is ending for them somehow, right? For those deals. And look, and if you look, there's one open letter to CNBC regarding the reports on this topic, and it is from one of the founders of this group of Wall Street Bets. And I don't want to read it out all, but I want to only read out the last paragraph here, where he says, "We don't have billionaires to bail out when we mess up our portfolio risks and a position goes against us. We can't go on TV and make attempts to manipulate millions to take our side of the trade. If we mess up as bad as they did, we are wiped out, have to start from the scratch, and are back to giving hand jobs behind the dumpsters at Wendy's." Good line, Bay. Seriously, motherfuck these people. I sincerely hope they suffer. We want to see the loss porn. And this is exactly what reflects many comments on this side, that they say. And here's one. This is which is very which goes too hard. If you read it out, and it is titled, "This is for you, Dad." And this is, I remember when the house collapse sent a torpedo through my family. My father's concrete company collapsed almost overnight. My father lost his home. My uncle lost his home. I remember my brother helping my father's count pocket change on our kitchen table. This was all the money he had left in the world. While this was happening in my home, I saw hedge funders literally drinking champagne as they looked down on the Occupy Wall Street protesters. I will never forget that. My father never recovered from that blow. He fell deeper and deeper into alcoholism and exists now as a shell of his former self, waiting for death. This is all my money I have, and I'd rather lose it all than give them what they need to destroy me. Taking money from me won't hurt me, because I don't value it at all. I'll burn it all down just to spite them. This is for you, Dad.
And yeah, that's
And I
another
think,
point, that who gets hurt physically from these things when they when they shorten these stocks, they
yeah,
basically determine the fate of a company where people actually work, and their livelihood is connected to it. So they force the company into the ground, because they think it's overpriced, or they want it to be pretend that it's overpriced and manipulated that way, and those people lose their livelihoods. So it's
yes.
very serious. It has a physical effect on people besides the people who choose to invest here or there. It's not just a theoretical or like a game of investment.
No, they know what they're doing, and they know what drives them. And exactly this is a narrative, of course. In mainstream media, they want to discuss this, because this was attract the attention of even more people. When they see why the people are doing this. The narration is they are stupid, they don't know what they're doing. But if the people know the reason behind it, they don't give a fuck for it. That they just have one intention: to bring those people down. We don't know if it will succeed, but I think it is great that that such a group of common people, mostly, I guess, is able to to tell the hedge funds and Wall Street that there is someone they have to deal with right now. And there's another thing I would like to address. Um, we are talking about short sellings and all this stuff, and I would like to talk about the psychology behind this term, or behind this business. Well, when I started to learn about stocks, etc., it is a little time ago. I gotta confess. Well, I learned that you invest into the stock market, to make a company bigger, to make it grow, that it maybe produces more jobs, etc., more wealth for the people, etc. But if you look at this business, at the short selling business, um, it is not constructive. In contrary, it is deconstructive to the core. There's a bunch of guys with big money who bets that a company goes down. They're the bad intention is already included in this, right? uh
I don't know. I'm not sure. So sure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm sorry. I think I think it is something which also describes capitalism, how we are doing capitalism today. And I think this is an approach of capitalism. This is deconstructive. It may be, I know what you want to say, it may be an instrument, a tool to regulate the market, but I don't think that it should be done like this.
In terms
I
of,
think it's
I see what you're saying. They're not producing anything of value.
yes,
They're not a
exactly.
productive part of society. They're just speculating, and as such they're not really valuable. But then again, that's part of the ecosystem, the financial ecosystem.
Yeah, but sorry, but the financial ecosystem. Sorry, I think this is exactly the term which is a false narrative, Amos. Excuse me, because there is nothing natural in it. It is artificial. It was made by man. It is not natural,
Right.
And if it is made by man, we are also able to change this, And this is why I say, if you look at it, if you look at what's going on in a simple in a simple example, you get a Pokemon card from someone for which is worth $10. You do the short selling stuff. In the end, you have earned $5, and your friend has the card back. So you created $5 out of nowhere.
Yeah.
There is no value. There is no drop of sweat behind this. This is not rightfully earned. I know I'm naive in this. I know how capitalism works today with algorithm and stuff, But I think in the end, this is the wrong way.
And as far as regulation is concerned, and to address Melissa's point and stuff, I do. That's a thing. That's an interesting point. But so far, the regulation has been towards the rich, and this exposure now is something that's playing out in Congress and in other places. And AOC and Ted Cruz from both sides attacked this. I think for Ted Cruz, it's just a way for him to ingratiate him. He's nervous about being impeached or having being taken steps against because of his role in the January 6th incitement. So he's pretending to be progressive friendly, and perhaps he's also building his street creds as a populist in order to be able to run in 2024. It's clear and transparent, so I don't think we should give much credence to that. Frankly, yeah, they should be debating. I don't think anything will come out of it because the forces behind keeping the system as is are just way too strong, and people on the whole don't understand how this works. It's difficult, it's complicated, and people are not as aware as the nerds among
it
us.
is complicated. It is complicated by design because the rules are not are being made by those people
Yeah.
who extraordinary got rich by the system for I don't know for how long time, for how many decades,
Yeah.
right?
And behind you
And
is this graph of that shows how it behaved, and you could see how the stock just skyrocketed. They tried to freeze it, it went down, and then it almost immediately got up back into the position that it was previously. So yeah, it's like it's
yeah,
an interesting
and it is absolutely illegal to prevent the customers from the market while you're allowing your hedge fund buddies to stay in it. It is not the job. It is the same like censorship on Twitter or on social media. There is a single enterprise, a single company who decides to pull the plug.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Anyway,
even Washington Post, though, I was surprised. Even Washington Post addressed this issue of the relationship between Citadel and other market makers and Robinhood. I think that's gonna come under the scrutiny, and I think they're like done. I don't think that Robinhood will. I don't know. Time will tell, but I think this has
Yeah,
become clear now what's going
yeah.
on.
I think we should I think to explain where it gets to a circle is exactly this part, where it gets into details. Um, and here it is written in the Washington Post. After the trading halt, Reddit users accuse Citadel and its billionaire founder, Ken Griffin, of pressuring Robinhood to limit trading of certain stock, a move that may have prevented further losses for the short sellers that lost billions betting against GameStop. And later it goes on. Citadel LLC, a separate hedge fund also found by Griffin, recently helped bail out Melvin Capital, a fund that sank 30% in a few weeks after shorting GameStop. And there is exactly where the circle closes, where you can see who is working together with who is profiting from who. And as we learned, Robinhood biggest customer is Citadel with a portion of 30% of what they are doing. And well, it is clear who were they working in favor of. It was not their customers, not those guys on social media, and yeah, it was the hedge fund buddies. And as I said, the body language. This guy knew what was going on. Yeah,
There's another epitaph to that story, and that is what Google did on top of all this mayhem. And what they did is they saw that there were like many people who were so pissed at Robinhood that they went in and they lowered their score on Google. They dropped it. They dropped it to one star, 1 point. Google went in and to help them out deleted 100,000 negative reviews. They're saying it's for maintenance purposes and so forth, but they're kicking themselves in the ass because what's going on is they're making themselves more less believable. People are just not going to uh, take the ratings from Google anymore as serious, and they're playing into this whole thing of the big tech not being upfront, and they're doing it like in plain sight. Everybody's seeing how they're behaving and what they're doing, and nobody sees it as acceptable, and that's gonna hurt everyone. That's gonna create even more chaos and confusion in everything. Because now, who are you gonna believe, even when it comes to scoring or rating of companies and such?
yeah. The censorship wind is becoming a storm. If you look at what's happening everywhere, we last week we learned that there were several Antifa accounts deleted, I think from Facebook, with a complete membership of 75,000. You can imagine Antifa, right? Which is not an organization but an attitude, in my opinion. Or what happened to the to another side from the social workers, I don't know exactly how they're called, from Great Britain, uh, also disappeared, deleted. And well, it will go on. It will definitely go on. We talked about this last week, and yeah, we will have an eye on it, of course. And well, and as I said before, it is the same tactics used by Robin Hood in this case, and by this other the other company who also did the same, restricted their customers. Yeah, they are censoring their customers in a different way. And well, Amos, what do you say? Do you have any closing words on this topic?
I think we kind of covered that pretty much. I don't have much more on this, so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's one last thing I'd like to say about the hedge funds itself. Um, it is a destructive force because I forgot to add this example. A couple of years ago, there were big hedge funds putting their bets against the euro, against Europe. They expected Europe to fail, and they betted a lot of money on this, and to put the governments under pressure to follow certain financial standards. And this is a danger if hedge funds, which have a potential to influence governments, get too mighty. That their influence turns out to be more or less a blackmail, which I would like describe this at this moment. It's getting very dangerous. This is why we got the hedge funds under control, and I hope that this goes on, and because now every hedge funds who is thinking about doing short sales in the future, they cannot be sure anymore that their bet will succeed, right? So maybe it would lead that this, in my opinion, dirty business gets closed, because the risk would get too high, would get too high, and this would be, on the other hand, something like a capitalistic cleaning within the market.
We'll see. But there's actually is one more thing that I had on this, and that's kind of an interesting thing that was pointed out to me by a family member, Josh Weiler, who mentioned that the Reddit group Wall Street Bets is actually composed mostly of conservative guys. So it's not like there's a bunch of progressives that just went in and caused mayhem. It's mostly conservative people, but it really cuts across the entire population. So in some way, there's class solidarity in that regard. So this is kind of an interesting twist on the whole thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. But as I said, if you read the post, why they are doing this and why they are not selling this. Because if you look at some posts there, guys who got big into this with about 10, 20, 30, $50,000, they are now multi-millionaires, right? And they refuse to sell this. you know and the sentiments are shared, and it is great to see. It is great to see that those guys get their ass kicked, and well, go on.
All right.
All right, yeah. Coming to the next topic. I came on this topic when I watched one of Jimmy Dore's segment where they were talking about the options or the possibilities to have a general strike in America. And well, I was scratching my head and I was wondering, okay, in Germany we are not known to be a country to be much on strike, because we have things differently arranged than other countries, according to corporations with unions, etc. And well, there was one example I would like to show you what a strike can be in Germany, what it can bring. And let me put it over here. Can read it better here. In 2018, as I said, there was a strike in Baden-Württemberg, which is a state here in Germany, and it concerned the metal workers and the electronic industry. And the IG Metal, which is the union here in Germany for those workers, they came with the following demands. They firstly wanted to have the 6.8 wages increase, and other things here. Secondly, to give workers the option to cut their weekly hours from 35 to 28, and more they wanted here. And it came to a strike, and it lasted, I think it was 4 or 5 days, which had a lot of influence to other industries, of course. In this case, the automobile industry with Porsche and Daimler. Their Mercedes-Benz and stuff. Well, it was something the union workers stood up for. They said the economy developed in such a direction that we deserve this raise. And after some days, of strike, the employers came to an agreement with the unions, and I would like to to show you in the next slide how this agreement looked like. What came out of this strike? Well, it led to a pay raise of 4.8%, not 6.8% as they originally demanded. But if you look at the additional things they got out of it, they got an additional single pay of 20.5% of a monthly pay. This was agreed to be paid in 2019. And employees with children or sick family members could turn these extra single pay into holidays. They could buy holidays additional to those they have. There was also the option to reduce the working hours to 28 hours, but it was only made for maximum 24 months. So the workers who had problems with their families, etc., or family members, or had children, they had for 2 years the chance to work 28 hours a week. This was not all. They got an additional single payment of 100 euros for the 3 months in the year, because the strike was around that date. It was paid in one charge, I guess. And in 2019, they also got an additional single payment of 400 euros. So this was a strike which which lasted only 4 or 5 days in Baden-Württemberg, and it got a lot out of for the working people there. And well, this is why I came to the connection with healthcare. And this is my argument why I think it is impossible for you guys, I'm sorry to say this, cannot get healthcare. Let me explain why, and I also will show you a little clip a little bit later about from the Jimmy Dore show. Why? Because look, if you would have a single pair compared with Germany or other countries which are doing even better in this with this, you would get a certain freedom. You would get a certain relief. It would make you, to a certain point, more independent, right? If it would not be connected to your employer anymore. Well, that you have to fear that you would lose your healthcare insurance or your healthcare at all if your employer fires you because you are on strike. So, if you got rid of this burden that you would have free healthcare, I think it would also encourage you to look. Okay, we got this. Now we got to go for the next project. It would not end with healthcare, right? And I think this is exactly why the big corporations, if you look at Amazon and all the big corporations, they cannot allow to give this Trump card. Yes, I know Trump. This Trump card out of their hands. They cannot afford to lose this Trump card. I think they balled their fist when it came to raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, which is by far not at some places, I guess, enough. But they accepted this because this is only a payment which gives a little bit relief, but it gives not the it gives you not the freedom of more independency, in my opinion, right? Amos, what do you say to my thesis before we
Yeah,
go on with the clip?
I totally agree. I think that the problem that, and that's been all along a hidden kind of agenda behind this whole setup of the insurance companies that are provided through work, because once you have that, you're basically a slave. You're not independent.
Exactly.
You have to consider how the strike or even losing your job on other grounds, leaving a workplace would have an impact on your very existence, on your health, on your health insurance. So it puts much more of a pressure on you than if you had the insurance independent, the healthcare independent of the workplace. So this is something that is often neglected when they're making the arguments, because it's not a straightforward kind of thing that people think about, because mostly they are employed, so they don't
Yes,
think of it.
yes. It's the tragic is the connection with the employer and the employee, and this is literally, as you say, this enslaves the worker, and well. I would be surprised if it would come in the foreseeable future to a healthcare which would give the individual freedom to the people, right? We know the reasons why. We just saw it in the segment before. We know who serves who, right? And it's always the same circle. And
And
well, let's
yeah,
let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. It's a very short portion of it where Ron Placone nails it. He nails it. If
before
you
we
can,
do that, one other thing that I want to expose, that hypocrisy about this whole thing by Republicans and conservatives, and that is that this dependence on healthcare is not only hurting people, individuals, workers, but it's hurting. It hurts small business entrepreneurs that are trying to launch a business. They have to quit their job to do that, and once they do that, they lose their health care. So they're so gung ho on touting how good they are for private capital and entrepreneurs, and on the other hand, they're hindering them by tying the health insurance to the workplace.
yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Let's have Ron Placone.
And as far as the general strike's concerned, I mean, part of the organizing mechanism of it is by design, because in the United States it's infinitely harder to do something like strike. In other countries, I mean, tying healthcare into this, in other countries where your healthcare isn't tied to your job, and you're not working 2 and 3 jobs just to survive, people strike. And typically good things happen. In Germany, you mess with them, they go on strike. In France, you mess with them, man, they know how to strike.
And
Yeah.
guess
In the
what? They all
United
have
States,
health care.
And guess what? They
they
all
all
have
have
health
health
care.
care. Yeah. And in the United States, it's like when people are one paycheck away from, I'm not going to be able to have groceries for my kids, or I'm not going to make rent, it's a lot easier said than done for them to strike. And I understand that. And I wish I had the answer, but I feel like it's just got to happen.
Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah. This is, and yeah, you got to only find the connections, right? And let's have a look at the next slide, and they can see um what's going on. Uh, we also have the information. We also talked about it, that 60% of the American families um, um, are hit by pre-existing conditions. In 60% of the families, one member has a pre-existing condition. So nearly everyone is confronted with this somehow, and of course it puts you into slavery, as we said, if it is connected with work, with employers, with insurances. And well, and if you look at here, it is quite remarkable that um, millennials are very worried. Of course, the Gen Zeros, they are quite young. It's not that important at the moment, but it's still, if you compare with baby boomers, who should be worried about their health care mainly, Amos, right? 30% are only worried about it, but 36%, which is a low number compared to the millennials, of those who are pretty young at this moment, it is ignorance. I'm asking myself, right? you know and the other interesting thing is, where I see is a big game changer. If you look at families, in the moment where families come into the game, not everyone responded, but from the 41% who responded to the survey, there are 43, 45, 42%. They are carrying what's going on with healthcare. you know as soon as you have children in the game, this puts you in an even more um, more hard position, because you don't have to only fight for yourself, you also have to fight for your children, and if you would have the the certainty that your single payer healthcare, or whatever you want to call it, Medicare for all, covers you and everything which concerns your family members, your children, is that right, is covered. Wow, I think you can take a deep breath, right?
Yeah.
Well, but you see the big chance, and this is why it makes it even more terrible, in my opinion, that the chance was so lightly given away with Nancy Pelosi. It gets, if you think about it, it gets even more terrible if you see how it connects to more problems, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah. All right. A lot of talk today. Uh, but I think it's important. And I gotta say one thing. I think you guys who did not watch it yet, you should definitely watch the last episode of Arma's Progressive Update. I think it was so far the best episode. Very
Thank you.
interesting guests. He Amos had a history professor for German history, among others, I guess, and another leader of what was he? What was he from?
He's
I
a
forgot this. Sorry.
self-professed Antifa guy. He's been doxing and researching and monitoring all these different white supremacy groups. He gets in their face. He goes to actual street protests and gets in their face,
Yeah.
and is not afraid of even being attacked and responding in physically. He's a big guy and
Yeah. Yeah.
very very
And,
courageous guy, and
yeah.
he's
Yeah.
also helped some people come out of the movements by providing them safety. So it's
Yeah,
very interesting.
and very, 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 very interesting guest, and it was very informative. Also, I learned a lot of. I got a lot of more perspective into this than before. It also encouraged me to my view how I think about the to deal with right wingers, as far as I have a solution at all about this. But let us start talking about what's going on, that what the situation is right now. We are seeing now a conflict growing between the right. This centers mainly around Jimmy Dore, and that he gave a podium to a guy from the Boogaloo Boys. And well, I think in the first place, it was Jimmy Dore had the right thought at this time, because it is exactly the thinking I also have in my mind. Uh, where do we move from here? And in how far there were 70 million plus voting for Donald Trump? Those guys are not disappearing with Donald Trump. And I don't want to scare you. I made up another number, and you got 70 millions who voted for Trump. If you got 1% of them who are radical Trump supporters, you still got 70,000. And if you got another 1% of the 70,000 who are willing to go into real extremism, like terrorism, it is still 7,000. Here in Germany, in the 70s, 80s, and up to the early 90s, or later to the middle 90s, we experienced a terrorism wave from the left side, and those people were only mostly a handful, maybe some followers more. But okay, our country is smaller. Multiply it with 5. In your case, this would be 100, but it would be 7,000. Only a rough estimation. Uh, who maybe are already so radicalized that that I guess there are things coming terroristic wise from the right side. I think it is only a numbers game, in my opinion. You know, if you, and even from what I know, what happened in Germany in later, you know, we also had a real big scandal around right wing terror, which is, to be honest, unsolved until today. We will talk about this at another time, but it is very dangerous. But to come back to the point, Jimmy Dore was absolutely right to think about where we are moving from here. And of course, we got to try to get into talks with the Trump supporters, with conservatives, and maybe some right wingers also. Um, but the question is, it very fast gets difficult. We experience this here in Germany also. Um, at the moment, when you give those guys a podium, and I'm not addressing it, especially the guy who was on Jimmy Dore, from which I think, in my personal opinion, he is not representative at all to the Boogaloo Boys, which in the first place is a loose movement and not organized at all. And maybe he also stands for all what he says, what he stood for, that he was pro LGBTQ or Black Lives Matter and all the stuff he was talking about. He might believe that all, you know, but when I watched it, and I watched it later with my girlfriend, and when he was talking about all of this, she turned around and told me, okay, but why is he with the Boogaloo Boys? You know, and you got to know about the Boogaloo Boys. Uh, they developed in the early 2010s from white supremacy groups. And well, the guy in the video seems to be a smart guy. He was a guy you can identify with. You know, he was not looking like a Nazi, and I don't want to say that he is one. You know, but he was looking like a hipster, like just a normal guy. He was very likable in this interview also. But the question is, and this is honestly what I was missing in this interview with Jimmy Dore, is exactly the question. You are standing for all this, for Black Lives Matter, pro LGBTQ, and all this, against ICE, etc. Why are you joining a group which is originating from a white supremacy group? And does this mean that you silently tolerate the ideology behind, and are only talking about the things how you want to interpret it? This is a question I would have raised, you know, because in this interview he said that that the majority of the Boogaloo Boys would stand behind what he says, you know. And as I said, I doubt this. This is a question I want to raise, you know. But it is, I think, it is important to reach out. But you also got to be very careful to whom you give a podium, and you got to be very, very good prepared, because it is nothing new here. And I got a little text here which I found from the German NPD. And the German NPD is even more right-wing than the Alternative for Deutschland we already talked about, which is currently the right-wingers party in the parliament. The German NPD is emerged directly from the Nazi Partei. And their strategy is, they call it a rise to speak strategy. And they are explicitly encouraging their members to force Democrats or democratic thinking people to talks. And in public talks, they should hitchhike the discussion for their own purposes. This is the so-called rise to speak strategy developed by the NPD, which is nowadays no important party anymore, and they don't have a lot of intelligent guys anymore there, because they all went. But if they come up with such a strategy in the hands of guys who are a little bit smarter, who don't look like Nazis, who don't behave like Nazis, who just want to get into contact you, who want to get maybe who want to get connected with you to get a kind of credibility, This is also a point you don't have to forget, because I read that this guy, when he was at Jimmy Dore, he was celebrated from right-wingers, for getting the public attention.
Jones,
and the more and more they get into the public knowledge, into the public discussion, into the public narrative, it is more easier for them, and the strategy goes on. It is to obstrude the ideas and force them to think about them, right? Amos.
Yeah, and Marcus, there's like, since you mentioned that, there's like a known interest, like organizations that have monitored this group have intercepted caches of their communications and stuff, and we know that was a strategy that they were deliberating about, of how to hijack the progressive movement, the BLM people. And it's like quite a deliberate tactic that they're talking about in their forums. So this is not to be prepared for that. As a journalist, in my opinion, is a little bit of lackadaisical or not responsible, and it's not. But again, I want to make sure that you understand that this segment was not made to particularly be against Jimmy Dore. That is not the point of it.
No, absolutely. Because, as I said, the thinking was right. He had the right thinking.
Right. Identify with his urgency and everything. The point is that we were all of people on the show, the people, my guests were concerned that this is the wrong approach and the wrong thing to do in terms of where to go as a movement. And we all agreed that while we should all like call in to those people, those individuals, the constituents, to join progressives, we shouldn't talk about conversation between the movements, because we should not allow these platforms, these movements to get a wider platform. That is, it's counter us eventually, and it's just it's not a good thing to do. So.
Okay, before we go on, I just see something in chat here. Jilly Love is writing here, they separated from Proud Boys because PB are violent. And there's some other thing I wrote in defense of them. The thing doesn't change. If, you can separate, but it doesn't, if you don't, why didn't they build up a group of their own? Why are they referring to originally white supremacist group? This is the question I raise, and this wakes my suspicion. And this is exactly the question I raise.
And there's also a lot of.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you stand for all the things, and we all want to achieve those targets, Medicare for all, and all those stuff, this is no question. But when it comes to the meat on the bone, when all this is settled, when everything is achieved, just imagine, then there is still the white supremacy ideology in the back. This is what I fear. This is exactly what the Nazi party did in the 20s when they're starting to get over. This is the same strategy. In Germany, we have an expression we have a term for this. We call it Steigbügelhalter. This is what did I told you? Spiro holder,
stirrup.
Stirrup holder, yes. This is exactly. They are using. They don't care who they are using to get on the horse of power. So they don't care about the stirrup holders. So I don't want to say. I absolutely don't want to say that this guy on the Jimmy Dore show is one of them. But I absolutely don't think that he is a representative voice for the Boogaloo Boys. Not when it comes to the core values. So this is all I want to say, and I think this should have been more. This should have been more. More get into it by Jimmy, as I know him, because I know that he's very critical, and I still like him. This is. I think it is a critique. It's a constructive critique I have in this case, because I know that how the discussion went for years here in Germany. I saw so many people who were expert in this field going public with neo-Nazi or right-winger leaders on public stage in public TV discussions. They failed miserably because they could not counter the narrative of the right wingers. They were helpless. So you should not underestimate it, right? This is the only thing I can say. Be warned about them. They may have a friendly face, but the thing is that this guy he did not separate from the Boogaloo Boys, not separate, but he seems to tolerate what a white supremacist stands for.
Yeah.
All right.
And to Jilly, response to Jilly, I took out a little bit of a clip. We had actually a very lively discussion between the audience in the chat, which turned kind of a little bit brutal between people who were completely supporting Dor and calling us bootlickers and all kinds of stuff. And I have to say that the whole narrative that Dor is putting as to I forget what he calls them, but he claims that he's being attacked by people on the media that are being paid off to attack him to do so. And we don't accept a single cent from anyone. We don't even really ask you for contributions. We love to get them when you do, but that is not our agenda. So it's very disingenuous to present it in that way. But someone, Craig Giradula, Pasta from the Convo Couch was in, and he raised he made a similar point to you, Jilly, regarding there's the 1% that we're really that's our enemy, and we shouldn't fight against each other. He put it differently, but let me roll this clip. There's a comment here from Craig Pasta. Thanks for the donation. He says, but go vote for Biden. Raytheon kills more innocent people in one day than Boogaloo and Proud Boys will kill in lifetime. Know the real enemy.
The real enemy is the Proud Boys. And yeah, you can add Biden in that one too. Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it goes back to what I was saying. We are talking about, the first thing I said this show is that we are dealing with two problems. We are dealing with the problem of a corrupt political process, a corrupt government. We do have to deal with that. That does not mean we ignore the Proud Boys and the danger that they bring. It does not mean that we ignore the Boogaloo movement. We don't ignore the Klan, whatever. They can also be a problem, just a different one. So yeah, we're going after both. And the truth of the matter is, we're going to go after both in different ways as well. We're not going to come at Joe Biden the way we're going to come at the Proud Boys. Sorry. So just because we don't go after Biden or the Proud Boys in the same exact way doesn't mean that one side gets a pass over the other. It just
that's a false equivalent. That's a false equivalency. And the Popular Front strategy in the 1930s, which was to bring communists, socialists, and all liberal elements together, was the winning strategy to fight fascism. Mm-hmm. And Biden is in the Popular Front. He's not the guy. He's maybe not where you want him in the Popular Front, but he's in the Popular Front. We can talk about the casualties. There's not that many Germans that were killed in the street battles of the 1930s. Hundreds, maybe 1,000, 2,000. Then double or triple that number in the concentration camps the first year. But once the Nazis were in charge, they killed about 35 million people in Europe by starting World War II. So very quickly, these numbers change. And this is because the fascists came into power.
That's a good point.
Bear in mind.
Okay, and so I think that was pretty good answers to that. And Jilly, this whole narrative of Fred Hampton, it appears to be a myth, and I will delve into that in a future show. But rest assured that Bernie, Malcolm X, and MLK have never embraced white supremacy. So that whole narrative is just a fictional narrative, and frankly kind of damaging.
All right, I'm looking forward. What do you have, Amos?
Yeah,
I'm interested. All right. Well, what else can I add? Let me see what I got here. Well, I guess I'm done with this, Amos.
Okay.
For the moment at least. But you got something about the Democrats, right?
Yeah. So basically, we've been monitoring what the Democrats have been doing in the beginning of right after the inauguration. No, even before the inauguration, an audio clip was leaked from where Biden was talking to civil liberty organizations, and it came out. A lot of his thinking came out, and is kind of disturbing because that was even before we expected to have Senate that was Democrat, but he's started with a very kind of losing position by saying he's not going to do anything. He said he's for HR1, he's for HR4, which are bills to improve the electoral system and our democracy. But of course, he's not going to push it because it's not the right thing to do in terms of unity, in terms of the Constitution, whatever. And he's already set up a very, very low expectation bar as to his actions in the first presidency. And that is very disappointing because even if he handles the current crisis well, he's not going to push Republicans forwards. And we've heard the Republicans making use of that frame of mind of his by suggesting that he shouldn't govern because he should seek unity and bipartisanship on everything. And meanwhile, they are going to continue opposing him on every corner. So that they're not talking about. So the strategy is to dissuade Democrats for at doing anything legislatively. On the other hand, blaming them for inaction afterwards, just as they have during Obama. And to go through this whole thing again and not having learned the lessons is just, in my view, is insanity. That's the definition of it. So not very encouraging where Biden is right now. I think he's finally realizing that he's grasping the enormity of the situation. He doesn't seem to be cut out for it. And meanwhile, Bernie, I wish Bernie was in place. I guess we all do, because Bernie's already on board, having a plan, promoting this budgetary reconciliation approach. He has like 15 points of things where he wanted to promote. He's very, very specific about policy directions. And he's not the one in charge, unfortunately. So that's the situation. One positive point from Congress, and then the Congress hasn't really used those days, first couple of weeks in power, to do much legislatively. But right before then, Representative Josh Sarbanes, who's the son of Sarbanes from Sarbanes-Oxley, has reintroduced HR1 bill, which is which is a bill that is um, meant to be it's a bill that is designed for the improving elections and so forth. It's called the For the People Act, and it's a very positive piece of legislation that didn't go anywhere in the previous Congress, but now that they have a majority, a Democratic majority, it may, if we press them to do that. So it's very important for everyone to give the representatives a call and push for that bill. It includes, among other things, fairness in elections. It discusses voter suppression. But the third leg of this bill directly addresses money in politics and talking about matching funds to private donations and so forth, and stuff that is very important in order to reduce the grip of money on our political system. So if we are to move forwards, that is definitely one bill that is worth pushing just as much as the Medicare for All. Unfortunately, not a lot of media talks about it. It's been on the floor.
Surprisingly,
it's going to go into committee now, and we have to start the pressure
again.
Yeah, again. So that's we gotta do that. That's pretty much the only like positive side that we're seeing on the legislative field at the moment. Meanwhile, the Biden's national security advisor Jack Sullivan kind of covered what he would expect to do, and that is he's going to keep the Abraham Accords, build on them. That is the bills that the deals that had to do with the agreements between Middle Eastern countries and Israel, normalization in that regard, and he's suggesting to build on that, although he's striking back against the Saudi arms deals, and he's removing the terrorist classification of the Houthis in Yemen, which also is a contradiction of what or conflict of what Trump was doing. Those are good things, but yeah, that is one of the directions that he's taken. He's building on the Quad, which is a quadrilateral security dialogue with Japan, Australia, and India, and the U.S. And that is also not a bad thing. He is renegotiating with Iran to get back into the nuclear ban agreement. And the issue is, it's very concerning, but Trump's reversal of it, in effect, what it has done is they accelerated their program significantly in the past 2 years in terms of producing nuclear weaponry. Of course, they didn't do anything else against Iran, so there wasn't really much point to getting out of that agreement. Aside from accelerating it, we're in a much worse position now than we were back then, and that's a shame.
Yeah, we will see what the government will do in the future, what the foreign policy concerns.
Yep.
Well, I'm skeptic. Obama wasn't shy to use his drones and bombs, nor was Trump, right? And we'll see. Yes, let's go on to to another heavy weaponized woman. Unfortunately, she's not weaponized with much intelligence, in my opinion. Yes, the empty green. And again, she. Well, we talked about. No, I introduced her, I think, 2 years ago when she came up with a campaign clip in which she was shooting at socialism, anti-gun laws, etc. And this was literally a campaign video that she was on a car, and using an AR-15 or something like that, and shooting at things. And there is so much going around. There was a report that she was on social media forcing or suggesting to kill someone. I did not find it. It is all the only sources I found. It was deleted or overwritten, so it was not readable. So I left it out because I cannot prove it. What we can prove is that, for example, she harassed one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting, David Hawk, and that she is refusing to wear a mask and is presenting herself as a victim. That this is now how Washington D.C. works, and she is completely against everything which stands for reason, in my opinion. But let's roll the footage and let's see what now this has about her.
How did you get over 30 appointments with senators? How'd you do that? How did you get major press coverage on this issue? And how did you get kids? Why do you use kids? Why kids? You know, if school zones were protected with security guards with guns, there would be no mass shootings at schools. You know that? The best way to stop a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. That was David Hogue right there. David, we saw him inside the Senate building. He had 30 appointments where he ran around and got to talk to senators. I got to talk to none. He had media coverage all over the place. I had zero. Guess what? I'm a gun owner. I'm an American citizen. And I have nothing, but this guy with his George Soros funding and his major liberal funding has got everything.
What more did you learn about the Congresswoman's views and comments?
So what we found was that Marjorie Greene in 2018 and 2019, and this is before she ran for Congress, she was a conservative commentator, posted on Facebook a lot. She repeatedly indicated that she supported executing Democratic members of Congress, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. There was a post in which, and this is really graphic stuff, somebody said a bullet to the head would be an easier way to remove Pelosi, and Greene liked that comment. She also repeatedly liked these comments about executing members of the FBI who she claimed were part of the deep state conspiracy against President Trump. And sort of the backdrop to this was she was leading this petition to impeach Pelosi, saying she was guilty of treason, and she gave many speeches in support of this. And in many of those actually also, suggested that Pelosi could be executed for treason.
It's a crime punishable by death, is what treason is. Nancy Pelosi is guilty of treason, and we want her out of our government.
I find it
Empty
very
Green.
chilling and frightening. And she was also, I believe she was the one that arranged, one of the Congress people who arranged for tours of militia people the day before January 6th. And she tweeted the positions for Nancy Pelosi when this was all taking place so that she could be captured.
Yeah. The Empty Green. And this brings me back to a thought I missed to tell in the segment left versus right. This is exactly those kind of people you cannot reach anymore. And as I said, that Jimmy Dore is right to find a way to get into contact, to reach out and to find a common base, which I absolutely support, is you have to be very careful who you approach. And I think the first thing you got to know is in how far is his infection, his ideology infection with white supremacy in this case, etc. And but those women like MT Green, they are not reachable anymore, and this is exactly those people who seek the attention of the public, to make to make their ideologies common talk, something which gets more and more in the center of a discussion. She does it, of course, in a very dumb and stupid way, with everything she does and says. I think there's also a story David Dole discovered that she was thinking that the big forest burnings were caused by a laser beam coming from somewhere out of space. I don't know. I don't read because it was too stupid.
It's the Jewish lasers. The Jewish lasers.
Jewish lasers.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they got
the
also
developing
racist, anti-Semitic background also. Okay, great. Well, you cannot take her serious, but this doesn't mean that this woman is not dangerous, and she is dangerous, But this is exactly those kind of people. You got to imagine her being a smarter guy, with not acting so stupid like her, and trying the same tactics she's doing. And you got to be careful. But as I said, Jimmy Dore is doing right. We got to find a way to talk to the other side. We cannot lock away more than 70 million people. But on the other hand, we never have to give up what we consider the core value of our democracy. And this is also a danger, because the left side very often intends to develop an understanding and to do more than reaching out, and this is the trap already, right? Okay, this is all I want to say about this topic. And Amos, do you have anything to add?
Just that that's a topic that I've been thinking about a lot recently, and I'm also planning on a show about that, the red pill versus black pitters, and what to do about deprogramming. Is it possible to deprogram conspiracy theorists and QAnon folk? That's an open question, and I'm going to have some people, experts in that regard, on the show in a future show.
Nah, Gilly, I know it's a joke, but of course, no one from us wanted to kill Hillary Clinton. We want to see her in orange. We want to see her in prison. I know it's a joke, but Anyway, I think we covered it all. We only have the last section. I collected some political cartoons, which I found not all are so funny as I think, but this is what the political cartoonists had for this week. And it starts with the GOP. President Trump bears responsibility for the attacks on Congress. Well, maybe just poor leadership. I don't believe he provoked it. Everyone across the country has some faults. He's not even in office anymore. I mean, move on. What riot? President Biden bears responsibility for this attack on President Trump.
Yeah, that's so typical of what we've seen in last.
Yeah, this is
4
exactly
years.
in a short.
And that's what I expected to happen. Yeah.
Right. Next one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, kumbaya, baby, unity, and yeah, Mitch McConnell. But he lost the thingy. He lost the filibuster question, right?
Filibuster is a very interesting topic that we should talk about in an upcoming show. It doesn't look like it's going anywhere, which I think is good, even though it's the progressive line that we should get away with it. But I think there's more danger in getting away, taking it away than. I think it's short-sighted to take it away. I think that if we do take it away, we have to replace it with something, with some other safety valve, and that's not in place.
Yeah. Well, and in the next one, I think the cartoonist was not aware that it has a double joke in it, right? White House lies, says the pipeline, and the two workers say orders are to shut it down. I think they are assuming that now with Biden, anything would change what White House lies concern. And this is why I added my personal comment already in it with a LOL.
Right, and the funny thing is that even in other regards, there's some similarities between Biden and Trump in terms of his thin skin response to thing.
Yes, yeah. You cannot be black armors if you don't vote for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the GOP elephant. He's crying, "Why are you being so mean to Mr. Cuddles?" Yeah, and look at Mr. Cuddles. Wow, and I don't. And the other joke in is, I don't see Joe Biden exactly as the front warrior in this,
right,
in this battle, right? Yeah, and there we got to see the still overreaching shadow of Donald Trump. Then we are changing the subject. We're coming to another serious topic, the COVID vaccine supply chain, which is not looking much different here in Germany, to be honest.
Right.
If we go on with that speed, I think I won't survive it, because I'm getting too old. I think at this tempo we would need 10 years to get all 80 million here vaccinated. I don't know.
Where in theory they're supposed to do, they set out to do 100 million doses in 100 days, which means roughly half that in population to vaccine, because you need 2 doses for each. So roughly 50 million to vaccinate 350 million. It's going to take a few months at the very least. So. And we already see that there's problems because the Trump administration completely neglected their responsibility in setting up things on the federal level. They just dumped it on the states that were inequipped and ill designed to deal with that, and that's what happens. They're not able to.
Yes, and unsurprisingly, it also has effect on the population, and especially if it comes to the black population. There we got numbers that those people, from those communities, they are underrepresented what the vaccines concern.
Yeah,
it's not surprising. Yeah, and this is maybe the only chance Joe Biden has to call Jeff Bezos. Maybe Amazon can take over the delivery, which would be another hit. Which would be another confirmation of the idiocy of the capitalism as we see it right now, in my opinion.
And it's kind of on another note, it's very disappointing to see where the administration is getting their policy at the moment, because they're taking things like the COVID response in terms of the healthcare has been lifted directly from healthcare insurance companies and lobbies that presented a plan, and so far, instead of going the way of a public option, even or further Medicare for all, which we would like, they just ramped up even more into the private insurance companies, subsidizing them to provide.
They are fucking the people already over. They were talking no healthcare. They were talking about a $2,000 stimulus check because of COVID, which is reduced to $1,400, which is not appearing until March now. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, they don't see the urgency.
This is why I put the big LOL in the pipeline joke.
Right.
the lies go on.
I don't know if it's as much lies as they are exposing they're not understanding the urgency of this to ordinary people, and that's, they're gonna pay for it politically,
and they will,
no doubt.
And they will not fucking understand it if they are wiped out in 22.
Right. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. In the last one, let's move over to Vladimir. And the latest the latest thing. It was quite interesting, Navalny returned, who was the guy who was poisoned by Putin's agents, and who came to Germany, and who confirmed that it was poisoned, and it came out that this kind was used in other cases, which was a strong indication to the German secret services. Well, he returned back. He should not, but this guy has balls. He returned back. He was imprisoned the moment he arrived. But somehow he arranged that he published photos of a giant palace, of a real big thing, which supposedly is possessed by Vladimir Putin. And if you, I don't have the photo here, but if you do a research and look it up, the thing is gigantic, and more and more people in Russia are aware of what's going on, and the laws in Russia, what demonstration etc. concerns, are a step further than in America, or two steps further. It is dangerous to do this, but this doesn't prevent the people in thousands to go out and to protest Putin and his regime. If it works, we don't know. Putin has all the power, and he has enough cronies on the street and in the military, on police side. We don't know how it ends, but the will of the people is unbroken, and especially not the will of Navalny. And this is wow. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed by him.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all from my side. Anything to add, Amos?
Regarding comment by Julie, check out there's a segment we've done on the progressive update regarding the water protectors in line 3. It's we've heard that there's been some revoke of the pipeline, the XL pipeline by Biden, but at the same time he has not rolled back other line 3 and other things that are going on, and we don't see any reason why that would be treated any differently, except for the fact that there is a little bit of disingenuity in this. So I hope that that follows, and they stop all the developments on the pipelines going forwards.
Yeah. Well, what does Julie Love says? Keys here demanding free Navalny, but kill Assange. Yeah. The Assange thing is another crazy story, and that this guy is in prison is another atrocity of our times today. And we also will try to cover this, but guys, there's so much going on, and until yesterday in the evening, I had no clue what to present, how to present it, but everything went too fast, and it was so interesting on many sides. And of course, we did not talk a lot about Julian Assange and what happened to him, and wow. We hope to do this very soon in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all for watching. It was great that you have been with us. I'm missing Al Walski today and Barbara Bartleson, and I hope they're doing right, and I hope to see them next week also, as you guys. And from what I saw, you had a great discussion there. I hope you like the show, and if you want, you can leave a thumb. And you know that we are not having a song to go out anymore because of YouTube is fucking us up. So the only thing I can say is have a great weekend. Stay safe in the time of COVID virus. Don't get desperate. And if you got some money, maybe you find something to fuck around with the hedge funds. Have a good one. Bye
Thank you,
bye.
guys. See you later. Bye bye.